Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg is an Intamin swing launch coaster that opened in 2022, but was originally meant for 2020 until, well, I think you know what happened. It's located in the Festa Italia section of the park, which includes coasters like Tempesto and Apollo's Chariot. But ever since this roller coaster opened, there is one thing that pretty much everyone has complained about, and they've been using it to hate on this coaster, and I don't think it's deserved at all. I'll get into exactly what I'm talking about later, but some notable stats about Pantheon is that the park first marketed it as the world's fastest multi-launch coaster, which was never true because Soaring with Dragon was actually faster, but what it does have is a height of 178 feet, a speed of 73 miles per hour, and 2 inversions. Pantheon was meant to be the flagship coaster for Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and let me tell you, it definitely worked. Not only is it my favorite in the park, but it was also everyone else's favorite, judging by the line it had. But I think the main thing you want to hear about is the layout. You start with a left turn out of the station that has a twist to it, and then you are at your first launch, which actually has some surprisingly good power for what the top speed is, which I would estimate to be around 35 to 40 miles per hour. Up next you have a 0G winder, which is pretty much just a 0G roll that ends in a turn, and you really just hang right out of your seat. Probably the best hang time moment on the entire ride. You then have these 2 weirdly profiled outer banks, which actually give some airtime, which was very surprising because I was not expecting it. But this next sequence is the best on the ride in my opinion. It's the swing launch with the speed hill in the middle and the vertical spike. You pass through this section 3 different times and they all feel distinctly different. The first time through is pretty slow, so you don't really get any airtime on the speed hill, but what you will notice is that there are actually 2 different launch sections, each split up by the speed hill. So it kind of creates this weird sensation where you get 2 different kicks from the launches. But after going through those launches, you ascend the top hat but stall out at the top and roll back down. Then you pick up a lot of speed and fly right over that speed hill, this time giving strong ejector airtime while still accelerating. This comes out of nowhere and is definitely my favorite moment on the ride. There's also a bump right after that gives a quick moment of airtime. Then you have the main element of the coaster, which is the vertical spike. Before Pantheon, the biggest spike I experienced was the one on Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando, which I thought was pretty good, but Pantheon's is on a whole different level. You feel like you are just gonna keep going forever, and the entire time you feel so weightless, especially when you are at the top. And one of the reasons is these trains, which these are some of the best out there because the lap bars are so comfortable and the seat design leaves everything very open, so you just feel so free on elements like this. But right after that you come right back down and go over the speed hill one last time, giving slightly stronger airtime than before. And after this, you ascend the top hat and finally make it all the way over the top, and you get a great view of the park around you. And if you're sitting in the back row, then you get some really strong and sustained ejector airtime on this beyond vertical drop, which actually has an angle of 95 degrees, making it the steepest roller coaster in all of Virginia. Then you are thrown right into a deceptively intense turn that could possibly make you gray out if it lasted any longer. The positive G's really surprised me. Then you have probably the most polarizing element on the coaster, which is the outer bank. Originally during testing, it completely flew over this element, but now it goes a little bit slower. I hear people calling it a dud element, but I don't find that to be true at all. You still get strong float airtime on the top part, and even weak ejector airtime on the entrance and exit. I would much rather have this than the outer bank on Steel Vengeance. After this you have a tight transition that whips you into a right hand turn into a very sustained 0G stall, giving great hang time and whip. There's also a crazy head chopper with the supports under the stall. And now you have what I would call the finale. Pantheon throws in a little S-curve that feels like it belongs on an older Intamin, and then you have one final element with the wave turn into the brakes, which gives some good sideways airtime. Overall, Pantheon is a very good layout in my opinion. And even though it's just over 3,000 feet of track, it doesn't feel short because of the swing launch section. Now you're probably wondering what the thing that everyone uses to hate on this coaster is. Well, for some reason, even though this coaster has a great layout, people love to complain about how there isn't enough theming. I don't get this complaint at all. The coaster has some theming in the queue, and it also has really nice presentation by the entrance. And there are so many coasters out there that people hype up that don't have any theming. So why is Pantheon any different? I've heard some people say this park specifically should have done better, which I guess is kind of true, but no one ever complains about Apollo's Chariot, which pretty much has no theming at all. I just don't think a lack of immersive theming is something that could bring down a ride for me, but that's just my opinion. Overall, I think Pantheon is a very good coaster with barely any flaws, so I'm giving it a 9.75 out of 10. The only reason I took off a little is just because a few elements could have offered slightly stronger airtime, like the giant outer bank and final wave turn. But that's so small that it's barely even a complaint. So if you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.